So hi again everyone. We are still on this topic, the time value of money, and today we will be discussing about relating present and future values on single cash flows. Sige, so diba, previously we have discussed about the cash flow diagram involving a present single sum na P and a future single sum na F. So this is separated by katong N, capital letter N, which represents the periods with interest na I or I% as katong per period na interest rate. So let's start with finding F. So here, ang approach nato ani na lesson would be we have different cases na kanang what if given ang P. So how do you find F? So we're gonna do like that. Mao na siya ang mga subtopics for the remaining outline of this lecture. So let's start with finding F when given P. So what is written here in our PowerPoint is just the important formula that we need to remember or to familiarize. So that would be P times 1 plus I raised to N, and ang isa is kanang murag format lang siya so that we can, this one kani siya, so that we can read it nga kanang with relationship na siya. So if an amount P dollars is invested at a point in time, and I% is the interest, we all know this one, no? Ibutang nato, investment ni siya at I%, which is the profit or growth rate per period. The amount will grow to a future sum P plus PI equals, that would be equal to P plus 1 plus I. Correct? Okay. So by the end of one period, mo ni siya ang makuha nimo at the end of one period. Okay? And by the end of two periods, what would it be? Kung mao ni ang makuha nimo sa end, sa isa ka period lang, butang na to isa ka N. So maunsa na ni siya if two periods na. So naa na kay P1 plus I squared. So that's right. Mahimo na siya og duha na siya. So i-squared na lang nato siya. And by the end of three periods, the amount will grow to, what would it be now? So mahimo siya og, that's right, mahimo na ni siya og Q, and so on and so forth. Therefore, by the end, kung i-shortcut nato siya, by the end of N periods, the amount will grow to, yes, F is equal to P times 1 plus I raised to a variable nato na N, because that represents the period. So this is where this formula is being derived. Okay? And anyway, so okay, I will also discuss kung unsay pasabot ani niya. So ang quantity nga 1 plus I raised to N di kani siya is commonly called, mo na siya ang tawag ana niya is single payment compound factor. Okay? So numerical values for this factor are given in the second, anyway, later on, na siya range of values from I and N. So for this, in reference, we will be, mao ni siya ang gitawag na kanang functional symbol. Okay. Na f over p, I percent, and n for, gi-replace lang na niya ang 1 plus I, n. So, kani nga formula nga naa si single payment compound factor nga 1 plus I raised to n, ang iyang functional symbol kung isulat nimo siya is f over p, I percent of n. So, where the factor in parentheses is red. So, ing anion siya pagbasa. Find f, given p at I interest per period for n interest periods. Again, ako i-write so that you can also take note. Find f given p at I interest per period for n interest periods. So let's continue what I started writing. At I percent interest per period for n interest periods. Okay, so that's how we read the functional symbol. Para mas dali lang po siya i-represent kung unsa ang atong gipangita and kung unsa ang given. So, the numerator is the gipangita nato, given ang denominator with I percent na interest per period and n interest periods. So, let's have an example here. We have a future equivalent of a present sum. So, suppose that you borrow 8,000 now, meaning now, by now, that would be P, nakahiulam nga 8,000 now, promising to pay the loan principal plus accumulated in 4 years at I percent. So, isulat na ito tanan given. That's the key to a better life. So, N is equal to 4 years and I is 10%. Para mas clear good ang mga solution nato. So, you have to write everything na lang in the first place. Sa first, pa lang sa problem, isulat na tanan ang mga given. Okay? And then, how much would you repay at the end of 4 years? Okay, wait. Okay, let's continue. Where was I again? Sorry, na-distract ko sa akong eldest. Anyway, so the problem here is how much would you repay at the end of 4 years? Meaning, sa Bisaya pa, pila imong bayaran 4 years after. So, pila na imong total na bayaran. So, that would be in the future, diba? So, we're looking for the amount in the future. Okay? So, remember our formula, we have F is equal to P, 1 plus I raised to N. And the functional symbol on how to write this one is P, kanira man mo i-replace, diba? Kaninga part. So, find F given P at I percent given n periods. Okay. So, we have that one. And here, sa solution na kanang prepared na, iyan lang na i-replace na because we have 8,000 here and then F over P, then 10% na interest at 4 years. So, using this formula, we will arrive with 8,000 times 1 plus 0.10 raised to n or raised to 4 is equal to 1.4641. Then we will have the total of, computing this, we will have a total of 11,600 $713. Why am I still writing this one? Pareha naman din siya. Anyway, so we will have this, we will arrive with this value. Now, let's look at how he did it in tabular form. So, para lang ma-visualize na to unsay agi niya in 1 year, unsa siya pag-compute per year. So, we can actually write it in tabular form. In this case, mo na ang iyang gipakita. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 because there are 4 periods that would be 4 years, okay? And nag-start siya og P because mo na ang giborrow na amount in the present. So, this is the start of year and this is the end sa year. So, mo kag year 1, sa start of year hulam kag 8,000. Sa end sa year mo, bayad kag 8. Something like that, okay? So, 8,000 and then interest owed is the interest owed is katong atong gina-compute na I times P. So, 800 kana siya. And since sa second year na, so 1 plus I, 8 times katong imong ang IP nga kanang IP na factor na result nato. So, that would be 800 di ay $800 and then 880. Then again and again and so on and so forth. So, nakay 1,065 sa year 4. Sa interest pa lang na siya. Okay? So, okay na ni siya. Amount owed is kani 88. As you can see, sa end sa year 1, nanghulam siya og 8,000 sa January. Pagka December, or igo padulong sa January next 2022, na 88 na yung bayro nun because na-add up na dito ang interest. So, this amount is what you will be using na po sa start sa year sa imong year 2. And then, kana siya, and then kani, can you follow me, guys? So, 9,680 na for year 2, at the end sa year 2, then use that amount na po sa start sa year 2 and compute the sa start sa year 3 and then compute add the interest na kanang i-top up nimo iyang interest. So, you will have 10,648 at the end of year 3. Use that amount again for the start sa year 4 and then compute the interest. Then, at the end of year 4, na nakay 11,700. So, pila ang total end of year payment? Why is this 0 here? Because ang problem nato is only concerned with pila ang i-repay at the end of 4 years. So, wala na siya every year pila i-repay. At the end of 4 years, naa siya bayron na 11,713. So, here, in conclusion sa iyang solution, in general, we see that F is equal to P times 1 plus I raised to N, and the total amount to be repaid is 11,713. Ingon siya, F is equal to P because this is what we are trying to prove kaganiha in how we derive our formula. Diba? Nga katong mag-add up siya per period or exponentially increase per period. So, yeah, that's it for computing F given P at I at interest rate, given interest rate with n periods of time. Okay, so diba same result lang siya, si kaming atong computed here at the right side and ang tabular. So, see what else. Anyway, sige sige. I just also wanna discuss this one or mention this one, that for each of the six common discrete compound interest circumstances covered, two problem statements are given. So naatay six common discrete compound interest circumstances covered ani nga lesson. I think we will be siya. Sige, we will discuss this later. Pero under this problem, two problem statements are given. So number one is in borrowing, lending terminology. And second is in equivalence terminology. But they both represent, so in borrowing, lending terminology, and in equivalence terminology, but they both represent the same cash flow situation. Yes, indeed, there are generally many ways in which a given cash flow situation can be expressed. So, kani siya si functional symbol nato. This is a good way to interpret a relationship. Diba? The calculated amount F at the point in time at which it occurs is equivalent to, and for example, can be traded for the known value P at the point in time at which it occurs for the given interest or profit rate. So, pwede nimo siya gamiton to for problem statements. Okay, so let's proceed to our next case. Our next case is finding P when given F. So let me just double check the formula. 1 plus 1 plus I raised to n. That would be okay. This is correct. F P over F I percent n. Okay. So, okay. This formula, kani siya na formula is the single payment present worth factor. Okay. And then we have the functional symbol nga F times P over F I percent N. So this will be read as find P given F at I percent interest rate in N periods. Okay. Sige. I have also included here 3 simple rules applying when performing arithmetic calculations with cash flows. So let's read rule A. Cash flows cannot be added or subtracted unless they occur at the same point in time. Okay, I think that's understandable. It cannot be added or subtracted unless naa sila sa isa period of time lang. Okay. Rule B is to move a cash flow forward in time by 1 time unit, multiply the magnitude of the cash flow by 1 plus I, where I is the interest rate that reflects the time value of money. So to move a cash flow forward in time by 1 time unit, multiply the magnitude of them by 1 plus I, where I interest rate reflects value time of money. And rule C is to move a cash flow backward in time by one-time unit, divide the magnitude of the cash flow by 1 plus I. So the only way you can do na kanang i-move nimo ang cash flow at backward in time is i-divide nimo siya sa 1 plus I. So this is all referring to our basic formula that we have discussed na. So again, pag mag-backward ka sa imong cash flow, i-divide mo siya o 1 plus I. And to move cash flow forward, multiply it by 1 plus I. You cannot add or minus unless nga naa sila sa same point in time. I think that's understandable. So let's have an example here. An example about the present equivalent of a future amount of money. Let's read this one. An investor or owner has an option to purchase a tract of land that will be worth $10,000 in 6 years. If the value of the land increases at 8% each year, how much should the investor be willing to pay now for this property? Now note na naanay worth sa future. Nag-paint na siya nga 10,000 in the future. So, pila ang iyang bayaran karon given na nakay 8% interest increase sa land each year. Okay? So, ang sa may mga applications ani in real life, like, pila akong gusto iipon karon kung gusto ko nga pila ang dapat nako matipid sa savings or allowance nako karon if gusto ko nga na ay 50,000 for my board exam, something like that. Pero something, because na siya interest rate, ahanin mo siya i-invest, ahanin mo siya i-save, ahanin mo siya ikuha na makagain siya o profit. Okay. So, the solution would be the purchase price can be determined from or so let's just write atong na-discuss or ang applicable nga formula. First is the functional symbol. Okay, so with this, makakuha ka of course, ang future worth nimo na 10,000 is kanina dali na lang ta na ako nagsulat. Okay, so F is a 10,000, 6 years is N, and I is 8%. Sorry. Okay, so yes, so this is the functional symbol that we are going to use for this example. And okay, so just to direct to the ano na lang ta solution. So you just have to substitute this one 8% and balik lagi siya 8% and this is 0.6302 ang imong F times 0.6302. So ang P, ang present na kailangan nimo bayaran karon or kaya kailangan bayaran sa investor right now is $6,302. So that's how we arrive with this answer. Okay. Next, finding interest rate given P, F, and N. So we have this formula here nga I is equal to N F of P square root of N F of P minus 1. Okay? So, muna siya na formula na ay mga situations that in which we know two sums of money nga P and F. Pwede ta kabaluan ni. And how much time separates them. So, pwede po niya given na siya, but we don't know the interest rate. pila di ay ang interest rate na mag-equivalent sila. So, for example, if we want to turn ang 500 na kay 500 pesos, pesos na lang. For example, na kay 500 pesos, and gusto nimo siya himuon og 1,000 in 2 years. So, at pilay interest rate ang kailangan na mag-move siya para in 2 years makahimo siya og mahimo siya og 1,000 ang imo investment na 500. So, something like that. So, we can easily solve this type of problems using this formula. Okay? So, for our example, kani siya, the inflating price of gasoline. Let's take that example. By the way, when you say inflating, tang nako ha, inflation, if you heard of it, this is another example of when it may be necessary to solve for an interest rate. Suppose you're interested in determining the annual rate increase in the annual rate increase sa price of gasoline. Like, for example, given the average prices in different years, so tanaw nimo ang different years ng mga prices, murag dito nimo kaan og pattern, you can use the relationship between P and F to solve for the inflation rate. So that's what we will do in our example. So the inflating rate price of gasoline. The average price of gasoline in 2005 is 2.31 per gallon. And katong 1973, ang average niya was 1.107. What was the average annual rate increase in the price of gasoline over this 12 period of time? So in 12-year period, over this 12-year period. So, basically, ang solution with respect to the year 1993 and year 2005, in the future, i-apply lang to nato ang atong formula. Kani siya, I'm not going to write it kay na siya dali. So, 12 na year, nga atong ipangita, and the 2.31 in 2005 and the 1.07 in 1973. So, minus 1, we have 0.0662. Okay? And, yeah, so 6.62% per year. Now, note na si 2005, ang value sa 2005 na gi-future na to siya, and with respect sa year nga 1993. Okay, so that's why we have the 6.62% per year nga kuan increase niya, on why we came up with this interest rate or price sa gasoline. Actually, this data was obtained from the Energy Information Administration of the Department of Energy. Tinood ni siya na data. These are historical prices of gasoline. Okay. Do we have more? Yes, we have more. Another is finding N when, oh my gosh. Finding N when P, F, and I are given. Okay, so sometimes we're interested in finding the amount of time needed for a percent sum to grow into a future sum at a specified interest rate. Kung naka-interest na ani. So, if curious ta, pila ang amount of time it needed para mo grow to siya. For example, how long would it take for mag-invest ka of 500 pesos today? And siya 15%, mo ingon ang kana, oh nanay, pag-invest na nimo karon na kay 15% interest rate per year. And nanay siya kanang kuan dayon 1,000 pesos. So, we can use the equivalence relationship given sa katong first na to na example or the first formula that we have discussed to obtain an expression for n. So, that's why we have this kanang formula. F is equal to P. Kani siya nga formula, the one that we discussed earlier, we can use this one. And using logarithms, maka-arrive ka o substitute lang manino n log of 1 plus I and log of 5. So, ano ni siya ang final na atong gamiton in a simplified form niya. So, ginaog lang ni niya nga through logarithms nga naatay formula for n. Okay? So, here's our example. When will gasoline cost $5 per gallon? So, diba we have the previous example about inflating price of gasoline. So, in that example, the average price of gasoline was at 2.31 in 2005. We computed the average annual rate of increase in the price of gasoline to be 6.62%. Remember our answer? We arrive with the interest rate of 6.62. If we assume that the price of gasoline will continue to inflate at this rate, kung magpadayon siya, how long will it be before we are paying $5 per gallon? It's $5 per gallon, sorry. So, just plug that in, nga 5, and ang 2.31 in 2005, and then replace the interest rate with what we computed with our previous na example. So, you will have 12.05 years, meaning it will take 12.05 years pa bago ta magbayad og $5 per gallon sa gasoline. Okay? Okay. So, therefore, if gasoline prices continue to increase at the same rate, we can expect to be paying $5 per gallon in, ano naman na year? Plus 12. 2017. Okay? 2017. Niyad pa na ako. 2017. So, after 12 years. Alright.